Ramon Dobson's private jet touched down after 6 months of closing billion-dollar deals across 3 continents. But when he walked through his mansion's grand entrance, his 7-year-old son didn't run to greet him. Instead, Kevin sprinted past his father without a glance, his small arms wrapping around the woman folding laundry in the corner, Barbara Spikes, the household maid. Ramon stood frozen, his expensive briefcase heavy in his hand, watching his child bury his face in her worn apron while she stroked his hair with a tenderness Ramon had forgotten to show. The boy looked at his father like he was a stranger wearing a familiar face. Ramon's jaw tightened, wounded pride turning to cold anger as he watched a scene that made no sense. His son choosing her over him. Marble floors gleamed beneath his $1,000 shoes. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and his child's laughter echoed through rooms filled with everything money could buy. Yet none of it had bought him this moment. So Ramon asked a question that would shatter everything he thought he knew about fatherhood. "Kevin, why do you love her more than me?" Kevin's voice was quiet, but each word landed with absolute certainty. "Because she stayed when you left." If those words, "because she stayed when you left," just hit you in the chest, pause right here and subscribe. Because this channel is for people who aren't afraid of hard truths. Every day, I bring you stories about love, loss, and the courage it takes to change. Click subscribe right now. You're already part of this family. Make it official. Now drop a love emoji in the comments if you've ever felt what Kevin just said, or if you've been Ramon, realizing too late what you've lost. This is your story too. Let's walk through it together. Ramon's breath caught. The simple statement hit, like a physical blow. His son's eyes, so much like his late wife's, held no malice, just truth. Raw, unfiltered truth from a 7-year-old who didn't know some truths should stay unspoken. Shock rippled across Ramon's face, hardening into denial, then twisting into wounded fury. 6 months building an empire for this child's future. And this was his welcome home? Barbara's voice cut through the tension. "Kevin, sweetheart, go wash up for dinner." The boy obeyed immediately, padding down the hallway without a backward glance at his father. The sound of his footsteps faded, leaving suffocating silence between Ramon and the woman who'd replaced him. "Mr. Dobson," Barbara said carefully, "he's 7. He just speaks the truth as he sees it. You turned him against me." Barbara met his gaze without flinching. "No, sir. You left. I stayed. That's all he knows." Ramon barely slept that night. He lay staring at the ceiling, replaying Kevin's words until they became an inescapable rhythm. She stayed. You left. He woke before dawn, determined. This was fixable. Everything was fixable with the right strategy. Ramon positioned himself in the hallway, watching morning unfold in choreography he didn't recognize. Barbara cut toast into perfect triangles, removed the crusts, spread honey. Not jam, honey, a distinction he'd never noticed mattered. Kevin appeared in pajamas, climbing onto his chair, the second from the left, always the second, and smiled at Barbara with warmth that used to be Ramon's. "Good morning, son," Ramon tried. "Yes, sir." Polite, distant, words for a stranger. Kevin reached for his shoes, and Ramon saw his chance. "Let me tie your shoes, son." Kevin looked up. "It's okay, Daddy. Barbara knows how I like them. I can tie shoes, Kevin. Left shoe first, then right. 3 pats for luck," Kevin explained patiently. "Barbara knows." And she did. Left shoe, right shoe, 3 pats. Kevin giggled at the familiar ritual, and Ramon felt like he was watching his son's life through a stranger's window. Desperate to connect, Ramon grabbed a strawberry yogurt from the refrigerator. "Here, buddy." Kevin's eyes widened. Barbara's hand intercepted the container. "Mr. Dobson, Kevin developed an allergy 6 months ago." 6 months ago, right when Ramon left. Kevin's voice held no accusation. "Daddy doesn't know I'm allergic to strawberries now." A simple fact that cut deeper than any reproach. Ramon set the yogurt down, his hand trembling. 6 months, a blink in business, an eternity in childhood. He'd missed the test, the fear, the comfort Kevin needed. Barbara had been there for all of it. The morning continued around him. Barbara packed Kevin's backpack with items that appeared like magic. lunch in containers Ramon didn't recognize, a permission slip signed in her handwriting, a small stuffed elephant Kevin clutched when anxious. Ready for school, sweetheart? Kevin wrapped his arms around Barbara's waist. Love you. Love you too, sweet boy. Then Kevin turned to Ramon and offered a small wave. No words, no hug, just a gesture for a distant relative. The door closed. The house fell silent, except for Barbara collecting dishes. Ramon stood in his 15,000-square-foot mansion, holding his briefcase, wearing his $1,000 suit, feeling more lost than ever. Barbara moved through his home like she belonged there, while Ramon stood like an intruder in his own life. Mr. Dobson, Barbara said quietly, wiping the counter, Kevin has soccer practice at 4. His cleats are in the mudroom, second shelf. And he has a spelling test tomorrow. The words are on the fridge. Ramon looked. A list hung there in Kevin's careful handwriting, decorated with stickers. Words like family and together and remember. He didn't know about the practice, the test, the cleats, the 3 pats for luck. He'd built an empire and lost a son. Ramon did what he knew best. He threw money at the problem. Within 48 hours, the great room had been transformed. A state-of-the-art gaming system dominated one corner, its massive screen gleaming. In the driveway sat a miniature electric go-kart, cherry red with Kevin's name in gold lettering. And standing near the refreshment table was Marcus Williams, starting point guard for the local NBA team, contracted for 2 hours at a price that could have fed a family for a year. Kevin walked in from school and stopped. His backpack slipped from his shoulder. Surprise! Ramon stepped forward, arms spread wide. Happy homecoming, son. I want to show you how much I missed you. Kevin's eyes traveled across the excess. The gaming system, the athlete, the tower of rap presence. His face remained carefully neutral. Thank you, Father. The words were perfect, practiced, the kind of politeness taught by nannies. Kevin moved forward mechanically, shaking Marcus Williams' hand with the energy of a mandatory school assembly. Ramon watched his son unwrap present after present. Limited edition sneakers, designer clothes, gadgets Kevin didn't ask for. Each gift received the same response. Thank you, Father. Polite. Empty. A script performed for an audience of one. The athlete left after his contracted hours. The gaming system sat untouched. Kevin retreated upstairs, and Ramon stood among torn wrapping paper and the hollow victory of money spent but connection unmade. 2 hours later, drawn by a sound he almost didn't recognize, Ramon found himself outside the kitchen. Laughter, real laughter, unforced and pure. He peered through the doorway. Kevin stood on a step stool, small hands covered in flour. Barbara stood beside him, showing him how to roll cookie dough. Simple chocolate chip cookies from a handwritten, splattered recipe. Like this. Kevin pressed the cookie cutter down, tongue poking out in concentration. Perfect, sweet boy. Now put on the tray. Kevin placed the dough carefully, then looked up at Barbara with pure delight. Can we make the ones with M&Ms next? Those are my favorite. Of course we can. They worked in easy rhythm. When Kevin spilled flour, he froze, fear flickering across his face, a child expecting consequences. But Barbara just laughed, dabbed flour on his nose, and said, Now you're officially a baker. All the best ones were their ingredients. Kevin giggled and dabbed flour on Barbara's cheek in return. Ramon stood in the doorway, invisible. His son was 10 feet away, genuinely happy, and Ramon might as well have been on another continent. The gaming system had cost $15,000. The go-kart, $20. The athlete, $12. And none of it had bought him the sound of his son's laughter. Barbara looked up and saw him. She wiped her hands and moved toward the doorway, lowering her voice. Mr. Dobson, he doesn't need things. He needs you. Ramon's jaw tightened. I'm providing for his future. Everything I do, it's all for him. He needs a father in his present, not a benefactor in his future. I'm building security, stability, a legacy. Barbara's eyes held something like pity. Mr. Dobson, Kevin is 7. He doesn't want a legacy. He wants someone to laugh with him while he makes cookies. He wants someone who knows he likes M&Ms. He wants someone who stays. The last word landed like an accusation. I stayed in that room for 2 hours with him today. You stood in a room while he performed gratitude for things he didn't ask for. That's not the same as being present. Behind her, Kevin hummed while arranging M&Ms, completely absorbed, completely unaware his father was even there. Ramon turned and walked away. Behind him, Kevin asked Barbara if they could make extra cookies for school tomorrow. Barbara said yes. His son's joy at the simple promise echoed through the halls. Upstairs, the gaming system sat in its box, wrapped in plastic. The go-kart waited in the driveway, engine cold. And in the kitchen, his son made memories with someone else. The scream tore through the mansion at 2 a.m. Ramon bolted upright, heart-hammering. Another scream came, raw, terrified, unmistakably Kevin. He ran down the hallway, bare feet slapping coal marble. Kevin's door stood open, light spilling out. Ramon burst through to find his son thrashing in tangled sheets, face wet with tears, eyes wide but unseeing. Kevin! Ramon reached for him. It's okay. Just a dream. You're safe. The moment Ramon's hands touched his shoulders, Kevin recoiled. His eyes snapped open, wild with fear, and he scrambled backward against the headboard. No. I want Mom. I want Mom. Kevin, please. It's me. It's Dad. I want Barbara. The words came as a wail, desperate and inconsolable. Barbara. Ramon felt something crack inside his chest. He was right here, and Kevin was calling for someone else. He reached out again, trying to offer comfort a father should be able to give. Kevin pulled away harder, body rigid with rejection. No, I want Barbara. Footsteps sounded in the hallway. Barbara appeared in the doorway, hair loose, still in her nightgown. She took in the scene instantly, Ramon kneeling helplessly, Kevin sobbing and unreachable. She moved past Ramon and sat on the bed. I'm here, sweet boy. Right here. The change was immediate. Kevin threw himself into Barbara's arms, burying his face against her shoulder. His sobs shifted, less panic, more release. Barbara wrapped her arms around him and began to rock, her hands stroking his back in slow circles. Then she began to sing. The melody was soft, achingly familiar, a lullaby Ramon's wife used to hum. He'd forgotten it existed. But Barbara knew every word, every note. Hush now. Sweet boy, the stars are all bright. Mama's here with you, all through the night. Kevin's breathing slowed. His grip loosened. She continued singing until his eyes grew heavy and his body went slack. She's gone, Kevin mumbled half asleep. In my dream, she was gone. I know, sweetheart, but I'm here. Don't leave. Never. Barbara kissed his head. I'm not going anywhere. Kevin's eyes drifted closed, breathing evening out. Even unconscious, his hand clutched her sleeve. Ramon stood by the window, useless. He was his son's father, in the moment Kevin needed comfort most. He'd made it worse. Barbara waited until Kevin's sleep deepened before carefully extracting herself. She tucked the blanket around him, smoothed his hair, placed a stuffed elephant within reach. She stood and moved toward the door. Ramon followed into the hallway. How did you know that song? His voice came out rough. Kevin asked me about his mother a year ago, what she sounded like, what songs she sang. So I asked the staff. They remembered. No judgment in her tone, just fact. He needed those memories kept alive. Someone had to do it. I could have. You weren't here, Mr. Dubson. Not cruel, simply true. And truth hurt worse than accusation. Barbara turned to leave, then paused. He has nightmares twice a month. Always the same, dreaming she's leaving and he can't stop her. The lullaby helps. So does the elephant. His name is Murphy. Ramon looked back at Kevin's door. I didn't know the elephant had a name. Most things in Kevin's life do. You'd know that if you asked. She walked away. Ramon stood alone, staring at his son's door. From inside, Kevin's sleepy voice drifted out. She smells like Mom's cookies. You smell like airports. Then silence. Ramon closed his eyes. His son had just told him exactly what he'd become. A stranger who smelled like leaving. Ramon didn't plan to follow her, but Thursday was Barbara's day off, and when he saw her slip out the side door just after dawn, something compelled him to grab his keys. He kept distance as her old sedan wound through the city into neighborhoods that grew progressively quieter. She finally pulled into a small cemetery, the kind with modest headstones and ancient oaks. Ramon parked and watched as Barbara walked along a familiar path, steps slowing as she approached a small marker beneath a willow tree. She knelt, shoulders curved inward, hands trembling as she placed fresh flowers at the stone's base. He waited 5 minutes. 10, when her shoulders began shaking with silent sobs. He found himself walking toward her. He stopped and read the inscription. Timothy Spike's beloved son, age 7. The same age as Kevin. Barbara's voice came hoarse. I knew you were there. You're not as subtle as you think, Mr. Dobson. Why didn't you tell me? Barbara didn't look up. Her fingers traced her son's carved name. Would it have mattered? You hired hands, not a heart. That's not. Yes, it is. She turned, raw pain in her eyes like a mirror. You buried yourself in work when your wife died. I did the same thing. The difference is my work became your son. Ramon's throat tightened. How did he? Leukemia. 3 years of treatments. Then he was gone. Barbara's voice cracked. I was with him every day. Held his hand through every procedure. Sang through every nightmare. Promised he'd be okay. And I was wrong. Silence stretched between them, heavy with shared loss. I couldn't save my son, Barbara whispered. Maybe I can love yours. Ramon sank onto the nearby bench. You're using Kevin to replace Timothy. No, Timothy can never be replaced. But loving Kevin, it's the only way I know how to keep breathing. Every time he laughs, I hear Timothy. Every time he cries, I remember I failed. But at least with Kevin, I can stay. The accusation hung unspoken. Unlike you, Ramon stared at the headstone. 7 years old. He tried to imagine watching Kevin slip away day by day, the helplessness, the unbearable weight of surviving your own child. He couldn't. The thought alone was suffocating. You reopen this wound every single day, Ramon said quietly. Every time you look at Kevin, you see what you lost. Yes, and every time you look at Kevin, you see a responsibility you're failing. We're both running from unbearable loss, Mr. Dobson. The difference is I'm running toward something. You're running away. The words hit like a blow. Ramon wanted to argue, to explain everything he did was for Kevin's future. But the defense rang hollow. I don't know how to do what you do, he admitted. I don't know the lullabies or the rituals or how to comfort him. I built empires, closed billion-dollar deals, commanded boardrooms. But I can't calm my own son. Barbara stood, brushing grass from her knees. Because empires don't require vulnerability, Mr. Dobson. Love does. And you're terrified of being vulnerable again after what losing your wife cost you. She was right. Ramon looked between Barbara and the grave of the child she'd lost. She came here every week to grieve, then went home to pour all that love into someone else's child. Not for money, not for recognition, because the alternative was drowning. I'm not your enemy, Barbara said quietly. I never was. I'm just a person who stayed when staying was what Kevin needed most. She turned to leave, then paused. You can learn this, Mr. Dobson. Love isn't something you're born knowing. It's something you choose to do every single day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Ramon sat alone beside Timothy Spike's grave long after Barbara's car disappeared. 2 parents, 2 dead spouses, 2 different ways of surviving unbearable loss. She had chosen to stay and love through the pain. He had chosen to leave and build walls against it. And only one of them had Kevin's heart. I want to pause the story for just a moment because if you're still here, if Barbara's grief and Ramon's walls are resonating with you, you need to subscribe right now. This community, we don't just watch stories, we learn from them. We take these lessons into our real lives. So click that subscribe button and put on the notification bell. So when I drop a new story every day, you can be sure that's exactly what you need to hear. Now, I wanted to answer this in the comments. When grief or loss hit you, did you run toward people like Barbara or away from them like Ramon? There's actually no wrong answer. Both are survival, because understanding how we grieve is a first step to healing how we love. Ramon's sister arrived unannounced, heels clicking across marble with sharp precision. Diane Dubson Hartford had built her own fortune and had opinions about everything, especially how her younger brother ran his life. "We need to talk about the help," she said, setting her designer handbag down. Ramon looked up from his laptop. "Barbara, that woman has manipulated your son. It's obvious to everyone but you." Diane pulled off her gloves. Staff talk. Other families talk. She'd forgotten her place. Her place? She's a maid, not a mother. Yet Kevin's so attached he can barely function without her. It's inappropriate. Diane's gaze swept the room. And it makes you look weak. Like you can't control your own household. Ramon's jaw tightened. Barbara takes excellent care of Kevin. That's the problem. She's not supposed to be taking care of him. You are. Diane moved closer. She's using your son to fill some void in her own life. She lost her own child. She's grieving. Then she needs therapy, not access to your son. Diane's voice softened. Think strategically, Ramon. What happens when Kevin's older and realizes his father let the maid raise him? What if your late wife's family challenges custody? They could argue you've abandoned him, delegate his care to staff. Ramon hadn't considered that. The thought sent a chill down his spine. Fire her, Diane continued. It's the clean solution. Hire a proper nanny with boundaries. Kevin will adjust. Children are resilient. From the corner of his eye, Ramon saw movement on the stairs. Kevin, still in pajamas, frozen on the landing. His small hand gripped the banister, face pale. He'd heard everything. "Kevin," Ramon started. "If Barbara leaves, I'm going with her." Kevin's voice was quiet but certain. Diane turned, surprise flickering before hardening. "Kevin, sweetheart, adults are talking. I'm going with her. You can't make me stay if she's not here." Ramon stood. "Kevin, you're 7 years old. You can't just... Then I'll never speak to you again." Kevin's voice didn't waver. "Like you never spoke to me when you were gone." Diane's expression shifted, shock, then judgment. "You see? She's turned him against you. This is exactly what I'm talking about." "No." Kevin descended the stairs slowly, deliberately. "She didn't turn me against anyone. You left, Dad. You left for 6 months, and Barbara stayed. That's the difference." Ramon felt the ground shift. His 7-year-old son was speaking truth that cut through every excuse he'd built. "Kevin, I left to build a future for you. Everything I do." "You keep saying that." Kevin's eyes were bright with tears. "But I don't want things. I wanted you, and you weren't here." Diane opened her mouth, but Ramon held up his hand. He needed to hear this. "Barbara didn't make me love her more than you," Kevin continued. "She just loved me when you weren't here to do it. And now you want to send her away because she did what you didn't want to do." The accusation hung in the air, impossible to dismiss. "That's not fair, Kevin. You told me once that fair means everyone gets what they need, not what they want." Kevin wiped his eyes. "I need Barbara, and you need to decide if you're going to be my dad or just the person who pays for things." Kevin turned and walked upstairs. His bedroom door closed with a soft click that sounded louder than a slam. Diane gathered her things with tight movements. At the door, she paused. "You're making a mistake. That child needs structure, discipline, boundaries. What he needs," Ramon said quietly, "is a father who stays. And I'm starting to understand that's not something I've been." After Diane left, Ramon climbed the stairs and stood outside Kevin's door. He could hear soft crying inside. He raised his hand to knock, then lowered it. He still didn't know what to say. Still didn't know how to bridge the chasm. But for the first time, he understood that Barbara wasn't the problem. He was. The call came at 3:47 p.m. during a board meeting. "Mr. Dubson, there's been an accident." The school nurse's voice was calm but urgent. "Kevin fell from a tree. We've called an ambulance. St. Catherine's Hospital." Ramon's world narrowed. How bad? He's conscious but disoriented. Possible concussion. Just get there quickly. He was out the door before she finished, already dialing Barbara. By the time Ramon reached the emergency room, Kevin was behind a curtain, his small form fragile against white sheets, his left arm bent at a wrong angle, already swelling. Kevin! Ramon rushed to the bedside. Kevin's eyes were unfocused, tears streaming. Mom, he whimpered, the words slurred with pain. I want Mom. I'm here, son. Dad's here. Ramon reached for his hand. Kevin's eyes snapped wider, and he pulled away violently. No. Mom. I want Mom. Kevin, please. Mom. Kevin's scream was raw, desperate. Every time Ramon tried to get closer, Kevin became more agitated, thrashing despite the pain. Sir, step back, the nurse said firmly. He's disoriented from the head injury. I am his father. Kevin's screaming intensified. Mom, please. I'm here, sweet boy. Right here. Barbara's voice cut through the chaos. She appeared at the curtain, out of breath from running. Kevin's wild eyes found her, and something broke. Relief, recognition, safety. Barbara, he sobbed, reaching for her. She gathered him carefully against her chest, mindful of his arm. I've got you. You're safe. Kevin buried his face in her shoulder, screams dissolving into sobs. His rigid body went slack. Within moments, his breathing began to calm. The doctor appeared, taking in the scene. Are you the mother? The question hung in the air. Barbara's eyes met Ramon's. His father should know first, she said quietly. I work for the family. The doctor turned to Ramon, but his expression suggested he'd drawn his own conclusions. Your son has a simple fracture and mild concussion. We'll set the arm and keep him overnight. He'll need someone with him constantly. I'll stay, Ramon and Barbara said simultaneously. Ramon looked at his son, still clinging to Barbara like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. She's his mother, Ramon heard himself say. In every way that matters. The doctor nodded. We'll get him set up shortly. You can both stay. 2 hours later, Kevin's arm was in a cast. The concussion left him drowsy, but even half-conscious, his body stayed oriented toward Barbara. She sat beside his bed, holding his good hand. Ramon sat across the room, watching. The oak tree, Barbara said softly. I told him last week it wasn't safe, but he wanted to climb it anyway. Why that tree? His mother planted it when he was born. He climbs it when he's upset. Says it makes him feel closer to her. Ramon's chest tightened. He was upset because of what he overheard. About firing you. He was upset because he's 7 and he's lost too much already. Barbara looked at Ramon. Children don't think strategically. They just know who makes them feel safe. Kevin stirred, eyes fluttering open. Confusion crossed his face, then fear. His hand tightened on Barbara's. You're in the hospital, sweetheart, Barbara said gently. You broke your arm, but you're fine. Kevin's gaze found Ramon. Their eyes met. Ramon saw his son's fear, his vulnerability, his need. He saw Kevin's hand reach, not toward him, but pulling Barbara closer. Don't leave, Kevin whispered. I won't. I promise. Promise you won't go away like Mom did. Barbara's voice cracked. I promise, sweet boy. I'm not going anywhere. Kevin's eyes closed, reassured. Within moments, sleep came. Ramon sat across the room, watching his son hold someone else, watching the person Kevin called for in pain, watching the parent he'd failed to become. His phone buzzed. Board updates. Deal negotiations. The empire that had taken him away. He silenced it and didn't look away from his son. Barbara left at midnight to get coffee. The moment her footsteps faded, the silence became unbearable. Kevin lay sleeping, his small chest rising and falling steadily. The cast on his arm glowed white under harsh hospital lights. His face, relaxed in sleep, looked so much like his mother's. Ramon moved closer, standing where Barbara had sat for hours. He reached out, hesitated, then gently placed his hand over Kevin's. His son didn't stir. I don't know your favorite color, Ramon whispered, voice cracking. I don't know your best friend's name. I don't know what makes you laugh or what scares you or why you hate strawberries now. The confession poured out, each admission another brick removed from the wall around his grief. I don't know the lullaby your mother sang. I don't know about Murphy or the 3 pats for luck, or that you need triangles, not squares. Ramon's hand pressed against his eyes, but tears came anyway. I don't know my own son. Kevin slept on, oblivious. I thought money was love, Ramon continued, barely audible. I thought if I built something big enough, you'd understand. You'd forgive me, because that's what my father taught me. The memories surfaced sharp. Ramon at 8, sitting with a nanny, watching his father's car pull away. The envelope on the counter, a check, always a check, for whatever you need. He sent money instead of showing up, Ramon said. Birthday checks, Christmas checks, graduation checks. He missed everything that mattered and thought dollars could fix it. His voice turned bitter, and I swore I'd never be like him. He looked at Kevin's peaceful face. I built an empire and lost a son. I became exactly what I hated. The words hung in sterile air, true and terrible. Ramon's shoulders shook with sobs he'd held for months, years maybe, since his wife died and he'd thrown himself into work because grief was too big to face. I don't know how to fix this, Ramon said, breaking completely. I don't know how to be what you need. He pressed his forehead against Kevin's hand, tears falling onto the blanket. I'm sorry. God, Kevin, I'm so sorry. Sorry is a start. Ramon's head snapped up. Barbara stood in the doorway, 2 cups in her hands, eyes red-rimmed. How long had she been there? I didn't hear. I know. She set the cups down and moved into the room. Mr. Dobson. Ramon. His voice was hoarse. Please. Barbara nodded. Ramon, then, what you just said about your father, about becoming what you hated, that took courage. It took my son calling for everyone except me. It took you being ready to hear the truth. Her tone was gentle but firm. You can't change the past, but you can decide what happens next. Ramon looked at her, this woman who'd done everything he should have done. I don't know how to be what he needs. I don't know where to start. Yes, you do. Barbara leaned forward. You start by staying, not because you feel guilty, not to compete with me, but because he's your son and he needs you, even if he doesn't know how to ask anymore. What if I fail? What if I try and he's still... Then you try again. Barbara's voice held hard-won wisdom. Love isn't a business deal. You can't negotiate terms or guarantee outcomes. You just show up every day and do the work. Teach me, Ramon said, the words scraping raw. Please, I don't know how to do this, but I want to learn. I need to learn. Barbara was quiet, searching his face, looking for sincerity, looking for proof this breakdown was real. Finally, she spoke. It starts with staying, Ramon. That's the first lesson, and the hardest. You stay even when work calls. You stay even when it's uncomfortable. You stay even when he pushes you away. Because he will. He'll test you to see if you mean it. And if he doesn't forgive me, then you stay anyway. Because this isn't about earning forgiveness. It's about becoming the father he deserves, whether he acknowledges it or not. Ramon looked at his sleeping son, at the cast, at Murphy tucked under his arm. I'm terrified, he admitted. Good, Barbara said. That means you finally understand what's at stake. The first call Ramon made from the hospital was to his executive assistant. Cancel Tokyo. Cancel Singapore. Cancel everything for 3 months. 5 seconds of silence. Sir, the board meeting is in 2 days. Find someone else or postpone it. I'm not leaving. He hung up. His phone lit up with messages. Colleagues, board members, investors demanding explanations. Ramon silenced it and turned back to where Kevin slept. For the first time in his professional life, the empire would have to wait. The real work began when they brought Kevin home. Barbara tried to ease Ramon into it, but there was no gentle way to learn 7 years of fatherhood in weeks. First morning, Ramon woke at dawn. He'd watched Barbara make breakfast dozens of times. How hard could it be? 20 minutes later, smoke billowed from the kitchen. Pancakes were black on one side, raw on the other, somehow stuck to the ceiling. Kevin appeared in the doorway, cast in a sling, and stared. Ramon braced for disappointment. For Kevin to call Barbara. Instead, Kevin giggled. "Dad, you're supposed to flip them before they burn." "I know that now," Ramon said, scraping char batter. "Want to show me?" Kevin's smile was tentative but real. "Okay, but open a window first." They ate slightly less burned pancakes together. Barbara watched from the doorway, smiling softly. The victories were small, the failures frequent. Ramon grabbed the wrong backpack. Last year's, too small. Kevin corrected gently. "It's okay, Dad. The blue one. Second hook." Ramon forgot show and tell until they were in the car. Barbara appeared with Kevin's model airplane, saving the moment. Ramon made a note. Fridays, show and tell. But there were victories. Ramon spent 3 nights learning the lullaby, practicing when Kevin slept. The 4th night, when Kevin woke from a nightmare, Ramon was there first. He gathered his son carefully and began to sing. Kevin's eyes widened. "You know Mom's song?" "Barbara taught me. Is it okay?" Kevin nodded, settling against Ramon's chest. By the 2nd verse, he was asleep. Ramon looked up. Barbara stood in the doorway, nodded approval, then quietly left. Bedtime stories became routine. Ramon read with different voices. Terrible, exaggerated voices. Kevin laughed at the attempts, and eventually they created their own versions together. "You're getting better, Dad," Kevin said one night, casual but weighted. "Dad, not father." Ramon cleared his throat. Yeah. You're still not as good as Barbara at braiding, though." That became the next lesson. Barbara taught Ramon to separate hair, cross strands, secure without pulling. Kevin sat between them, giggling when Ramon lost track. "I'm hopeless," Ramon muttered, starting over. "You're learning," Barbara corrected, guiding his hands. "You don't have to be perfect, Ramon. You just have to be present." "Ramon." She finally used his first name naturally. "Even if I braid crooked?" "Especially then. Kevin doesn't need perfect. He needs you, mistakes and all." Kevin patted Ramon's hand. "It's okay, Dad. We can practice." The transformation wasn't dramatic. No single moment where everything clicked. It was built from burned pancakes and wrong backpacks and improving bedtime voices. From Barbara's patient lessons and Kevin's tentative trust. From Ramon showing up day after day, even when he failed. Especially when he failed. 2 months in, Ramon sat helping Kevin with homework, while Barbara prepared dinner. Normal, domestic, unremarkable. "Dad," Kevin said, not looking up, "can you help with number 7? Ramon leaned over, and for the first time, he knew the answer not because he was brilliant with numbers, but because Barbara had shown him how Kevin's teacher wanted problems solved. Because he'd been paying attention. Because he'd been there. "Let me show you," Ramon said. Kevin scooted closer, trusting. Barbara glanced from the stove, caught Ramon's eye, and smiled. Not the polite professional smile. Genuine warmth. Ramon smiled back. He was learning. He was staying. And slowly, impossibly, he was becoming the father his son deserved. The school form arrived on a Tuesday. Kevin sat at the kitchen table, pencil hovering over, parent/guardian to contact for spring event. Ramon watched from the doorway. Kevin had both numbers now, Ramon's and Barbara's. The choice was his. Kevin's pencil moved toward the paper, hesitated. Then he picked up his phone instead. Ramon's phone buzzed. He answered. "Kevin, there's a thing at school next Friday. A spring concert. Can you come?" Ramon was supposed to be in a meeting. His first board meeting in 3 months. The one his team had begged him to attend. Through the study door, he could see his laptop. Faces waiting on the video call. "I'll be there," Ramon said without hesitation. "Nothing is more important." Silence. Then quietly, "Promise?" Ramon thought of all the broken promises. All the times he'd chosen deals over bedtime. Airports over breakfast. "I promise, Kevin. And I'm learning to keep those now." Another pause. "Okay, Love you, Dad. If you just teared up at that moment when Kevin chose his father hit you right in the heart, stop right now and subscribe, because this is what we do here. We watch people learn the hardest lessons. We cry together. We grow together. Click subscribe because this family is all about choosing presence over performance, love over legacy, showing up over success. And I don't want you to miss a single story. Now, comment below and answer this. Who in your life deserves the every single night promise? Who needs you to stop building your empire and start showing up? Say their name, make it real, and hit subscribe so you're here tomorrow when we do this all over again. The first time in months, maybe years. Not prompted, just honest. I love you too, son. Ramon's voice cracked. Kevin smiled, set down his phone, and wrote Ramon's number on the form. Barbara at the sink caught Ramon's eye and nodded. Trust earned. Friday came. Ramon arrived 45 minutes early. When other children arrived, he knew their names: Marcus, Lily, James. Kevin's whole world. You came, Kevin said, surprise and joy mixing. I promised, Ramon said simply. The concert was beautiful chaos. Ramon recorded every second, eyes never leaving Kevin. Afterward, students presented family projects. Kevin walked to the front, holding a poster board, 3 crayon figures. Left, a woman with long dark hair, Mom in heaven. Right, a woman in an apron, Barbara, who stayed. Middle, a man in casual clothes, Dad, who's learning. This is my family, Kevin told the class, voice clear and proud. It's not like other families, but it's mine. Ramon had to step outside. Barbara found him in the hallway, tears streaming. He included me, Ramon managed, after everything. Because you showed up, Barbara said. Every day. That evening, Ramon found Barbara reviewing textbooks. College-level business courses. You're going back to school? Barbara looked up. Night classes. You offered to pay, and I accepted. First time in 4 years, I'm thinking about a future beyond surviving. You're not leaving? No. I'm staying as family, not staff. If that's okay. More than okay. That night, tucking Kevin in, Ramon noticed 3 framed photos on a nightstand. Kevin's mother, young and radiant. Mom, past/memory. Barbara and Kevin baking, flour on their noses. Barbara, present love. Ramon and Kevin at the concert, both grinning. Dad, present learning. 3 people, Kevin said. That's my family now. 3 people. Ramon agreed. Weeks later, Ramon restructured his company. Presence first leadership, flexible schedules, mandatory family time. Other executives followed when they saw their own children's faces light up. The empire didn't crumble. It evolved. On a quiet Sunday, the 3 of them sat at the kitchen table, not the formal dining room. The kitchen, with mismatched chairs and placemats Kevin made in art class. Barbara had cooked. Ramon had set the table. Kevin had folded napkins into swan shapes. Can we do this every night? Kevin asked. Ramon and Barbara exchanged a look. 2 wounded people who'd learned to heal by loving the same child. Every single night, they said together. Kevin beamed. Family, Ramon had learned, isn't who you're born to. It's who chooses to stay when staying is hard. Who shows up for breakfast and bedtime and broken arms. Who learns your favorite color and your fears and a lullaby that makes you safe. Family is a choice. And presence. And second chances earned through daily devotion. Sometimes, family is 3 people at kitchen table, choosing each other every single night. If this story touched your heart, I need you to know something. This channel needs you. We're a family here. People who believe that faith matters, that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when God calls them. Your support means everything. It helps us reach more people who need hope. So if you're not subscribed yet, join our family right now. Click that subscribe button. Because stories like Patricia's, stories about courage and faith and love, need to be told. And I believe you're here for a reason. God bless you.